It's Clay here with the first tutorial video of build an app day at Branch. This video assumes that you've already gone through the first 4 steps of the Getting Started guide, and you have actually been able to create your first Xcode project. In that first Xcode project, you should land on a page like this, and yeah, so this first video is just going to take you through the different parts of Xcode, so you better understand the project that we're working with here, or the software that we're working with here. Great, so let's, I guess we'll go top to bottom, left to right. So the very top here, you're going to see Xcode and all of these different menu items. You don't really need to worry about any of these. I'll talk about the individual things that you'll need to know later on in the tutorial. But to start, yeah, just know that it's there. This top bar here, this is essentially what's telling you, it tells you about how your app is being built and running. So it'll give you a run button, it'll give you a stop button, it'll give you the opportunity to pick what you want to run the app on. So from here you can see I'm running on an iPhone 8 Plus, so I could change this to be any device that I want, any screen size, iPads, any iPhones. You could also plug in your own iPhone and run it on your actual device. You'll see your device pop up if you plug it in here. I'm going to use just the iPhone 8 Plus for right now. But yeah, so if I click start here, what's going to happen is it's going to build this app on your phone, or on the simulator's phone, and this top bar right here that you just saw is kind of giving you the status on your on your application as it's running. You know, as it's loading onto the phone and whatnot. You don't really need to know too much about this. Just know that's what this does. So yeah, it just launched. It's a blank white screen because we actually haven't done anything on the app yet. This is in Simulator, so Simulator is actually going to have is its own application separate from Xcode. They interact with one another. Okay, so you can actually change the size of your simulator. Sometimes it's really big. I like to scale it down to actual size, or if you want it a little bit smaller, you can change it to 50. Or one of the other sizes that it provides you. That's really the only control you're going to need to know about this simulator. To go home, to use the home button, you can go into hardware and click home. There's a bunch of other different things that you can do with this simulator, but the one you really need to know about is home. So you go into hardware and click home, or you can do Command-Shift-H and that'll take you home, and that's essentially pressing the home button of your iPhone app. So let's just click it back and launch it back up again. Still nothing there, obviously, because we haven't done anything yet. Great, so that's how you run the application. Up top in the right hand side here, you're going to see some different options. These are just different viewing options. We're just going to stick in the standard editor, but just so you know, there's assistant editor, which will split your center into 2 separate screens, so you're actually viewing 2 different files here. But yeah, let's just stick with the standard editor, and then there's the version editor, but we don't need to worry about that. If you see a funky screen and this is not selected, or this is not showing up as blue, just make sure that this is blue. And then you're always going to want these are the controls for the side navigator. You're going to always want this left side navigator open, and you're always going to want this right side navigator open. So if you can't find something you're not seeing these side panes. That's because these views up here aren't selected. We can also add this debug area in the bottom. I like using this. It's what we call the console. This kind of shows what's going on in your app as it's running and whatnot. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but yeah, let's just go ahead and keep all of these three open. Now, let's go into the left pane. So this first pane here. This pane is this will show you essentially all the files that are a part of your project, right? This you can change. There's a couple other widgets over here that you can see how much CPU memory your app is using. Breakpoints are part of debugging. Report navigator. You don't really need to know about any of these, but just know that they're there. If this ever looks funky or something that you're unfamiliar with, just go back to this folders icon, and it should look just like a normal, look like a normal view hierarchy or a folder hierarchy. Great. So that's this left view. Let's just always make sure that this has the folder highlighted, and then you have your center pane. The center pane is just what you probably imagine it to be. It's what shows all the content of whatever file you're clicking on, right? Whatever file you're working on. So we have storyboards in here. You have view controllers, which is your code. Your app delegate is another code file. Your image assets, which is just all the different images that are in your app. Your plist file, which is just a bunch of different configuration. All you need to know is just the center pane shows you pretty much the contents of whatever file you're clicked on. Now, this top file here, this top directory that everything lives in, this is your Xcode project. Now, this is actually going to be very important later on, but this is where you're going to set a lot of the different configurations of your application. We're not going to get into too many of the configurations, but I'll definitely walk you through that if we ever need to deal with any of these configurations. But to start, just go into your general. You can change your display name. I'm going to change this to Clay's app. This is just where under your icon you're going to see this display name. Bundle identifier, that should have already been set when you got started. Your version and your build. That's like when Facebook app comes out and they say they're in version 2.4. You have your version number and then your build number. So this would be 1.0 build 1, which I think is 1.0.1. And then this is very important here. You want to click this automatically manage signing button. That's going to open up this view down here. If you follow the instructions correctly, you should, when you click on this team, you should see branch metrics as the as an option, and then you're going to want to select that. That's really important, or else, yeah, just ensure that you have that. If you don't have that set up, again, go back to the tutorial on the getting started guide and shoot me an email. We're going to need to get you configured with the branch Apple developer account. But yeah, for now, make sure that this is working. Deployment info. Universal just means that you can do iPhone or iPad. Let's just leave it as both. Deployment target. This is what version of iOS you're going to deploy on. Now, if your phone is not running on iOS 11, you're not going to be able to run your app on your phone. Okay, so mine's on iOS 11 and it's synced with my Xcode, so I'm just going to leave my deployment target at 11. And yeah, and that's essentially all you need to know. Let's actually, for the sake of simplicity, let's turn off these landscape left and landscape right. This just means that you can't turn your phone sideways, and when you turn your phone sideways, it's not going to shift the screen sideways. It's just going to lock itself in the portrait mode. And yeah, that's everything we need to do in this file up here to start. Most of this should already be configured once if you've gone through the setup process. Great. Okay, well now on the right hand side, you're going to see your utilities inspector or your utilities bar here. Okay, this is going to change depending on the file you have open. So in my view controller, this is going to, this is going to be relevant to the view controller that I'm working with. If I'm in the storyboard, you're going to see some more things pop up here. Yeah, we'll get into a little bit more detail. This is essentially just like a control panel. It's like how you control what you've selected on, right? So you can think of this left pane as you're selecting the file you're working with, the center pane as working inside of that file, and this right pane as working as editing whatever you've selected in the center pane, right? I know that's a little bit confusing, but if you select this view controller here, then you can go in and I think you can just change some stuff around, and you're editing whatever you have selected here, right? I just changed the background color, but yeah, that's kind of what this right pane is going to be, and we'll get into what these top icons are, or these different views are in here a little bit later. But yeah, that's kind of your right-hand side, and then the bottom of this right-hand side is like the drag and drop feature. Really, all you need to be using here is the object library, which is this circle with a square in it. Sorry, I've searched the image. This is going to have all of these different components inside of it. And some of these will start to look familiar, like a label and a button and a segmented control, a text field. These are all things that you're going to be putting into your app, right? And we'll get to use some of those a little bit later. We won't touch most of them, but we're going to be working with things like buttons and labels, and yeah. So that's kind of your right-hand view, and then this bottom view here is your console. I don't think I've mentioned that yet. The console essentially just tells you what's going on inside your app when it's running. It's really helpful for debugging, so you can kind of see things working in real time. We'll show you how that works a little bit later, but just know that here in the bottom you have your console. Great. So that is the first tutorial. That is a little bit about Xcode, and I will see you in the next tutorial video.